Alright, supposedly we should be going live. Of course, it's the one I didn't do. Let's go through. We scheduled multiple, and I decided to pick one above the other. That's fine. That's fine. Alright, man. You ready to kick this thing off?
I guess so.
Cool. I'm just going to make sure our voices are coming through alright. Do a voice check. Of course, it's that. It sounds like it's coming through. One I didn't do. Cool. Alright. Kicking this thing off. Hello and welcome to the Holon Network channel for January 12th of 2023. This week I have joining me,
Hey, I'm Digital Tinker.
and I'm Gatorbite. Yo, Digital, how's it going this week, my friend?
It's going pretty good.
Awesome. Everything going for work pretty quiet? Working on any fun projects?
Work's been kind of quiet. I'm just doing some documentation for the hackerspace. So
Nice. Not sure if that was Digital just dropping or if that was Craig dropping. It was Digital. Cool. So we'll just wait for him to come back. On my side of the house, I'm wrapping up my 2 weeks of PTO. So I've got a last couple days left, and then I'm jumping back onto work here. Welcome back, Digital.
don't know what Discord did, but it didn't even tell me it crashed.
Oh no. Okay. We're having all sorts of fun tonight. Between my moving locations and then trying different hardware, and then, yeah, lots of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, wrapping up my 2 weeks of PTO vacation time. So got some projects done. Got two more big stumps pulled out of the yard, and then I got some cool stuff in the mail that we'll have to talk about a little bit later on. But anything else you want to cover before we jump into this week's vulnerabilities?
Nope, we can jump right in.
Sweet. All right. First off, let's go to our standard, finding out what the Bitcoin price is currently at $18,775.46. Gold per ounce is $1,908.70. Crude oil per barrel is $78.27. And Dogecoin is 0.07942 cents. All right, with that, let's just jump right into the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency 2023 Bulletin weekly summary for January 2nd. And was there anything that popped up to your attention?
Looking through it right now.
I can say if you're running a Synology, there was an out-of-bounds write vulnerability in the remote desktop functionality in the Synology VPN Plus server before 1.4.3-0534 and 1.4.4-0635 allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary commands via unspecified vectors. CVSS score of a 10, CVE of 2022, 43931.
May help if I'm looking at the right page.
Let me update that on our list.
I thought I had last week, but apparently I missed it.
Oops. Oh well.
Looks like the TrendNet TEW755AP firmware has a couple issues. And by a couple, I mean quite a few.
Oh boy.
And it looks like they're all 9.8, so definitely check out some firmware updates for those.
That is a long list. And a Tenda A15 firmware also looks like it found a lot of issues. They are all 9.8s as well. And then a lot of NAs on here, which is interesting. There's a couple from NVIDIA for Virtual's GPU. NVIDIA GPU displayed driver for Linux contains a vulnerability in the kernel mode layer handler, where an out-of-bounds read may lead to a denial of service, information disclosure, or data tampering. That's a CVSS score of a 7.8, CVE of 2022, 34676. Then there was two others, including NVIDIA GPU display driver for Linux contains a vulnerability and the kernel mode layer NVIDIA.ko, where an out of bounds array access may lead to denial of service, information disclosure, or data tampering. CVSS of a 7.8, CVE of 2022, 42255. And finally, NVIDIA GPU display driver for Linux contains a vulnerability in the kernel mode layer NVIDIA KO, where an integer overflow and index validation may lead to denial of service, information disclosure, or data tampering. CVSS score of a 7.8, CVE of 2022, 42256.
There's actually a few more, including for the NVIDIA GPU display driver on Linux, where an out-of-bounds array access may lead to denial of service, information disclosure, or data tampering, with 2022 34673, where an integer overflow may lead to information disclosure, data tampering, or denial of service. That's a 2022 42257, and where an integer overflow may lead to denial of service, data tampering, or information disclosure as well. That was 2022 42258.
So
those are 7.3s. And a final one at 7.1 with the NVIDIA GPU display driver for Linux contains a vulnerability in the kernel mode layer handler, where an unprivileged regular user can cause an integer to be truncated, which may lead to denial of service or data tampering, with 2022 34677.
interesting stuff, man. So if you're running a NVIDIA graphics card, you'll probably want to make sure, if you're running it specifically on Linux, make sure to go pull those binaries and update it.
Or switch to the open source version if you can.
That's also true, depending on what you're using it for, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We want to jump into the medium vulnerabilities or jump into our next section?
We can jump into the next section.
Cool. If we jump right on in here, the next one that I've got, it was from Packet Storm. There was a Red Hat Security Advisory 2023 0110-01, which was a Red Hat Security Advisory for SQLite in the C library that implements SQL Database Engine. A large subsequent of SQL92 is supported, and a complete database is stored in a single disk file. The API is designed for convenience and ease of use. The application that links against SQLite can enjoy the power and flexibility of SQL database without the administrative hassle of supporting separate database server. So we've put a link to that inside of the show notes, so go check out the Packet Storm article for more information. All right, next one up. It looks like we're jumping right into This Week in Privacy or Lack Thereof. Digital, take it away.
Researchers could track the GPS location of all California's new digital license plates. So apparently, not quite what we expected to happen, but the end results are still the same. The group of security research managed to gain super administrative access into Reviver, the company behind California's new digital license plates, which launched last year. That access allowed them to track the physical GPS location of all Reviver customers and change a section of text at the bottom of the license plate, designed for personalized messages to whatever they wished, according to a blog post from the researchers. An actual attacker could remotely update, track, or delete anyone's Reviver plate. Sam Curry, a bug bounty hunter, wrote in the blog post. Curry wrote that he and a group of friends started finding vulnerabilities across the automotive industry that included Reviver. So what I expected is the actual endpoint devices to be the ones breached and messed with. Here it's the server backend.
Right?
So even worse.
Yeah.
So the fun thing is one of the options that these have is a special mode that you can trigger that if your car is stolen, it'll read stolen at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So what if all of a sudden all the Revivers become stolen? That'd be a fun day for the police to track all that.
No kidding.
That, or if you could set them all to like No, and watch
Yes.
all the license plates go nuts.
Yeah, especially all those license plate readers, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, after this article had come up, I had seen, I started getting advertisements to say, "Oh, you want to pick one up? It's only $20 or $25 a month for a wired or a battery-powered version. It's just for like 5 years that you have to pay that for." Oh, okay, cool.
Those cell phone subscriptions aren't cheap.
Right? Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad somebody else found out how to go through and check these out. It was a matter of time before it happened, but
Hmm.
dang, dude, that was fast.
Yep.
Gotta love it. So that's all that we have in privacy for this week. Why don't you take the next one in This Week in Security?
It's a sad day. Microsoft ends Windows 7 extended support or extended security updates on Tuesday.
Womp womp.
The Windows 7 Professional and Enterprise editions will no longer receive extended security updates for critical and important vulnerabilities starting Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. Microsoft launched the legacy operating system in October 2009. It then reached end of support in January 2015, and its extended end of support in January 2020. The Extended Security Update program was the last resort option for customers who still needed to run legacy Microsoft products past their end of support on Windows 7 systems. All editions of Windows 8.1, launched 9 years ago in November 2013, will also reach end of support on the same day. Most Windows 7 devices will not meet the hardware requirements for upgrading to Windows 11. As an alternative, compatible Windows 7 PCs can be upgraded to Windows 10 by purchasing and installing a full version of the software. Before investing in a Windows 10 upgrade, please consider that Windows 10 will reach end of support date on October 14th, 2025.
That's right around the corner, man.
Mm-hmm. Here's hoping that Steam's Proton and a couple other layers get a little bit better, that maybe we can just stop using Windows altogether.
So this is where I want to really like pull out a song. It's Dream On. I would love to see it happen.
And so we use Redline at work, which is a Windows-only security tool, and I was like, wonder if we can talk our compliance in team and letting us install Steam on all our computers.
Yes, just do it. Just do it. I mean, nothing bad can happen from that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can install World of Haiku and make sure that you get more training then. Fantastic. Well, talking about installing in gaming, MSI makes some pretty awesome motherboards and graphics cards and such, but if you have one of their boards, you might want to check to see if your board is in the list of the very insecure secure boot defaults. There's a article on this online, and then there's also a GitHub that we have linked in the show notes from Fox Boron on SBCTL underneath his GitHub. So some MSI motherboards with some firmware versions by default allow booting binaries on on policy violations, whereby not providing any additional security compared to having secure boot disabled. If you want to scroll down for an effective board list and their firmware versions, you can check out the list below. To deny booting on policy violation, go to the place where your secure boot settings are in the UEFI. Change the secure boot mode to custom and then open image execution policy. Some examples below are like settings, advanced Windows OS configuration /secure boot, or security /secure boot. You can then change the always execute to deny execute on removable media and fixed media. Optionally, you can also change this in the options ROM to deny execute. So there's a long list there of different processor and socket types. So AMD, every X670E motherboards, every B650E motherboards, and there's a handful of them on the X570s, the B550s, and then if you go to the Intel side of the house, Let's see. We've got the Intel every Z as in zebra 790, every B as in boy 760. Uh, one or two certain ones for the Z590, a couple for the B660, H610, and H410 as well. So yeah, lots of all fun stuff. You go check that. Make sure that you're actually, when I'm looking down a little bit lower here, affected motherboards, newer firmware versions available and that are confirmed. When I built mine, mine was the X470, and I'm pretty sure mine's this X470 Gaming Pro Carbon AC. So time to go grab a new firmware.
It doesn't necessarily say it's fixed. It just says there's newer firmware versions. So
Right? So,
I assume that means they're still vulnerable on their newer firmwares,
okay.
whereas older ones may not have been.
Fine. Well, let's find out. We'll be able to poke at this a bit and find out and report on it next week. And I wonder how long it's going to be until they patch this, or if it's going to cause issues. Because this is a large list. So.
Yeah, lots of chipsets, lots of vendors.
Absolutely. All right, moving right along. I think. Do you want to take this next article?
I can. The Kensing crypto malware hits Kubernetes clusters via misconfigured PostgreSQL. The threat actors behind Kensing cryptojacking operation have been spotted exploiting misconfigured and exposed PostgreSQL.
Uh-oh, we lost him. So, the threat actors behind Kensing cryptojacking operation have been spotted exploiting a misconfigured and exposed PostgreSQL server to obtain initial access to Kubernetes environments. The second initial access vector entails that the use of vulnerable images. Sunders Bruskin, security researcher at Microsoft Defender for Cloud, said in a report last week. Kensing has a storied history of targeting containerized environments. Often leveraging misconfigured Open Docker daemon API ports as well as abusing newly disclosed exploits to drop cryptocurrency mining software. The threat actor in the past has also been discovered employing a rootkit to hide its presence, in addition to terminating and uninstalling competitive, resource-intensive services and processes. Now, according to Microsoft, misconfigurations and PostgreSQL servers have been co-opted by the Kensing actor to gain an initial foothold, with the company observing a large amount of clusters infected in this manner. They've got some pretty nice graphics showing how this works. The misconfiguration relates to the trust authentication setting, which could abuse to be connected to the server scans on any authentication and achieve code execution should the option be set up to accept connections from any IP. In general, allowing access to a broad range of IP addresses is exposing the PostgreSQL container to a potential threat. The alternative attack vector targets servers with vulnerable versions of PHP Unit, LifeRay, WebLogic, and WordPress that are susceptible to remote code execution in order to run malicious payloads. What's more, a recent widespread campaign involved the attackers scanning for the open default WebLogic port 7001 and found executing a shell command to launch the malware. Exposing the cluster to the internet without proper security measures. Welcome back, Digital.
Doing great tonight.
This is fine, rocking back and forth. I'll have you end up taking the next article. I'm on the last line on this one.
Okay.
So exposing the cluster to the internet without proper security measures can leave it open to attack from external sources. In addition, attackers can gain access to the cluster by taking the advantage of known vulnerabilities in the images. So for more information on that, we pulled this article from the Hacker News on January 9th. All right, so that was the last one for this week in security. You want to take the first one on miscellaneous stories?
Sure. DEF CON has put out some new information, including a call for badge designers. But it includes some bad news. They're going back to the TikTok cycle, where this year will be a non-electronic badge.
Interesting. Okay.
So now the hope.
Go ahead.
Now we just hope we don't have a repeat of DEF CON 25 where their plans fall through and they have to go back to rubber.
Right? Yeah. This is 6 months is a very small amount of time to come up with an idea, get a viable option, and then produce 30,000 badges.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting. I talked with my wife about it, and we saw Gulo's post about it as well, saying, "Hey, it sounds interesting. Who's down for it?" And I'm like, "This sounds very interesting, but I'm also slightly worried because if these other badge designers burn out in 2 years, that's gotta tell you something, man."
I mean, because he burned out a bunch of chips while doing it.
I think there might be just a little bit of pressure to make sure things go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just do a 3D printed badge this year and make it super simple? Make it. You know what? Here's even the step up. This is where you slip an NFC ticket inside of each one of the badges as you print. So each one's unique. It's hard coded. This is fine, and then just start pumping those suckers out.
And then you just get like a lead line sticker, put it on the back, then put your own NFC tag that you can reprogram.
We can't go wrong. This is bulletproof. Let's go ahead and submit for it, man. Fun stuff. So the information is in the show notes if you want to be able to go through, and if you have an idea, they have a couple questions on saying, okay, what's your name, primary contact information, your social, how long have you attended DEF CON, what inspired you to submit for the call for the badge designers, what did you bring to the table with a new perspective, show us your work on what badges or related designs that you've made in the past, on an online link or supporting portfolio materials that would be very helpful to visualize your work, the art, the hardware, etc. Have you made conference badges before? How many badges have you made before? Is it 100, 1,000, 10,000? What was the average overhead cost per badge on your last badge design, and how long did you prepare for that badge design? Have you failed a badge design, and what happened? If you were to reboot a DEF CON badge, which would it be, and how would you do it? If not a DEF CON badge, how would you improve upon existing badge design of your own? Have you made badges in an interactive before? And please explain. So they've got a handful of different ones. Go check it out. It could be a lot of fun and awesome opportunity. My wife's like, you should jump on it. I'm like, I could, but I could also just wait another couple years for the next people to burn out and then have the opportunity then. She's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I can move that one down the road a few years.
So I was just saying, it's like, I think I only have one non-electric badge, but I actually have two.
Oh, really?
So I've got the DEF CON 25 one, which was the rubber mock-up of the DEF CON 1 badge.
Okay.
And then the DEF CON 2020 badge, or the safe mode, that was the cassette tape.
Cassette tape, yeah. Yeah. So
I saw someone else say they need to go to either a Laserdisc or an 8-track next because they already have the record.
Right? We saw how well that worked out for the cassette tape, though, right? Yeah. Yeah. Laserdisc, Blu-ray, I mean, throw something in there. Everybody just gets an MP3 player. Alrighty then. Going on to the next one. Do you want to read the next one as well, or do you want me to jump onto it?
I think you can go to this one.
Cool. So I just grabbed an article from Slashdot, which is an excerpt from CNN from a corrupt file led to the FAA ground stoppage. This is being reported on January 12th. So according to the CNN, the Federal Aviation Administration system outage on Wednesday has been traced to a corrupt file. The statement from last Wednesday, the FAA said that it was continuing the investigation into the outage and takes all needed steps to prevent this kind of disruption from ever happening again. The preliminary work has traced the outage to a damaged database file. At the time, there's no evidence of a cyber attack. The FAA is still trying to determine whether any one person or routine entry into the database is responsible for the corrupted file. A government official familiar with the investigation into the NOTAM system outage told CNN. When the air traffic controls realized that they had a computer issue late Tuesday, they came up with a plan, the source said, to reboot the system when it would be at least disruptive air travel, early on Wednesday morning. But ultimately, that plan and the outage led to massive flight delays in unprecedented order to stop all aircraft departures nationwide. The computer systems that failed was the central database for all the NOTAMSs, or Notice to Air missions nationwide. Those notices advise pilots of issues along their route and their destination. It has a backup, which officials switched to when the problems with the main system emerged, according to the source. The FAA officials told the reporters that early Wednesday that the issues developed at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. Officials ultimately found a corrupt file on the main NOTAM system, and the source told CNN. A corrupt file was also found in the backup system. In the overnight hours of Tuesday to Wednesday, the FAA officials decided to shut down and reboot the main NOTAM system, a significant decision because the reboot can take about 90 minutes, according to the sources. They decided to perform the reboot early on Wednesday before the air traffic began flying on the East Coast to minimize disruption to flights. They thought they'd be ahead of the rush, the source said. During the early morning process, the FAA told the reporters that the system was beginning to come back online and that it would take time to resolve. The system, according to the source, did come back online but wasn't completely pushing out the pertinent information that it needed to for safe flights, and it appealed that it was going to be taking longer to do that. That's when the FAA issued the nationwide ground stop around 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, halting all domestic departures. So the source said the NOTAM system is an example of aging infrastructure due to an overhaul. Because of budgetary concerns and flexibility of budget, this tech refresh has been pushed off. I assume now they're going to actually find money to fix it, according to the source.
Crisis precipitates change.
Right? I mean, how many people and how many industries are not looked at until something major happens to them, and then all of a sudden money starts flowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about money flowing, this was something that kind of is in between our different subjects. Do you want to talk about it, or do we just want to highlight on it?
I can start on it.
Go for it.
Beware the gifts of dragons, how D&D's open gaming license may have become a trap for creators. According to leaks reported last week, the company that owns Dungeons & Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, is planning to revoke the open license that has since the year 2000 applied to a wide range of unofficial commercial products that build on the mechanics of Dungeons & Dragons. The report indicates that this wouldn't simply be a change going forward, but would affect existing works that relied on the license. The old license would be revoked for existing users, and people who have used on it will be forced to adopt new terms or renegotiate with the company, Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of game giant Hasbro. Obviously, this would be a rude and unfair thing to do to people who have been accepting the invitation of the open gaming license, create new games and stories that build upon Dungeons & Dragons. But would it be legal? Even more interesting, would revoking the OGL actually give some third parties more freedom to operate, given that the OGL forced them to promise not to do some things copyright and trademark law otherwise permit? Let's find out. So the open license is an offer to allow people to use your material in the way you specify, despite some legal rights such as a copyright that would otherwise entitle you to withhold permission. For instance, the Creative Commons Attribution License provides rights to adapt and share a copyrighted work so long as the user gives you credit or attribution. If you have a copyrighted work and you want to give people resources that they can make use of it, open license are a handy way to do that. You might do this because you want your work to be freely shared far and wide, or because you want to build a community of creativity. But an open license only makes sense if the work is actually copyrightable, meaning you would otherwise have the legal power to stop someone from doing what you have want to permit. For instance, if I put together an uncopyrightable phone book composed of bare facts organized alphabetically, that people are already free to use it, and they're nothing for me to license. So the wordings on this is a bit odd.
Right? And we lost digital again. So what's copyrightable about role-playing games? A role-playing game is like a cross between improvisational acting and playing a board game. It's called a role-playing game because players take a fictional persona or roles and narrate or act out their actions within the shared fictional narrative. So, role-playing games are typically published in books that describe the rules of play and that may also include scenarios like fictional settings to supplement the story that the players invent. Copyright grants an author a limited monopoly over their creative expression. It doesn't cover bare facts, mere ideas, systems, or methods, but it does cover the creative way that the person expresses facts, ideas, and so forth, provided that the expression has sufficient creativity. A role-playing game book often includes both a description of the mechanical system and the creative fictional elements. When describing a non-copyrightable game mechanic, I might try it in a dry, non-copyrightable way, or I might do it in a creative, copyrightable way. For example, if I wanted to describe a magic spell that turns someone invisible, hey, talking about turning someone invisible, welcome back!
It's not even like it gives me a noise that it happens. I just keep reading, and when I pause and then don't hear any kind of like feedback, it's like, no, great.
Yeah, I tried to message you each time that you go offline. I give you about 5 seconds. I'm like, all right, I'll pick up.
Yeah, it's not coming through on my phone for some reason.
Suggestion: turn off your Wi-Fi on your phone, so then if it'll go through your cell phone signal instead. So if I hit you with it, it doesn't matter.
It's Discord crashing. So it's not my internet this time.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll have fun with it, right? It's a short show tonight. So I got down to for example, if I want to describe a magic spell, if you want to pick up from there.
So the non-copyrightable way of doing it is invisibility spell. You must speak magic words and touch your target. When you do, they become invisible for 1 hour. You may end the spell whenever you wish. The spell ends automatically if your target makes an attack or casts a spell. While there are different word choices that could make in some places, this is a functional description of how the spell works as a game mechanic. You have to speak, so it doesn't work if you're gagged. You have to touch the target, so you need to be close to them, and so on. Functional descriptions aren't copyrightable. As an alternate, Kid's Shroud of Concealment spell. Incant Stars Blight upon all sight and touch your target. When you do, the spirits of the constellations descend to wrap them in an unearthly mist that makes them invisible for 1 hour. You may send the spirits home whenever you wish, ending the spell. The spirits depart automatically if your target makes an attack or casts a spell. This spell was developed by the Sorceress Lawyer Kit when she negotiated the contract between the Tower of Sorcery and the Constellation Spirits in the Year of the Fallen Mountain. If all the additional text is just fluff with no game consequences, this version probably contains some elements that are copyrightable. However, if other game elements trigger when spirits are present, or if someone says a rhyme or based on other fictional elements described here, then the uncopyrightable game system might merge with the text here so that it wouldn't be infringement for someone to reproduce this text entirely. Courts are essentially interested in whether the uncopyrightable elements of a work remain available to the public to use, or if the copyright owner is effectively monopolizing them because there simply aren't many different ways to describe the uncopyrightable ideas or system.
This is going to be a heavy hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of the whole re-emergence of D&D was because they had this opened up back in, was it 2000, right?
2000 was when they did the license, yeah.
Right. So then people started creating their own game mechanics around it. You've had Pathfinder, you have all these other creators going through and making their own content. So
Pathfinder's kind of the biggest issue right now
right?
because that was whenever Dungeons and Dragons released version 4 that was supposed to be more video gamey. A lot of people didn't like it.
Right.
So company took the open gaming license and took the version 3.5 and said, all right, we're going to spin this as our own. Thus creating their own campaign setting where they changed that copyrighted material and were able to remake the system the way they saw it going forward.
Right.
And then it blew up and became more popular than D&D.
Exactly, right. And then because they've also been going through and doing the Kickstarter stuff, and been pretty successful with that. They're bringing in money just like when it comes to a Critical Role and them creating their own content, and not only their Kickstarters but then also their Twitch streaming. And I think that's where Wizards of the West Coast is going, hey, I want a piece of that pie, instead of doing the whole D&D 1 and unifying. I think what the said was that D&D 1 was supposed to unify all systems together to make sure we can all play as one happy community. And then there was a leak of this being updated, and it's like, oh, I think you read the cards wrong there, guys. This is the wrong direction.
Did we say community? We meant corporation.
Oh, yep. Nope. That's good. Good call. Good call.
So this is affecting all media. It's not just the role-playing game. So the fact that a Dungeons and Dragons series just got greenlit, or the fact that Disney currently is working on remaking some of the games, this could come into some issue as well.
Yeah, this is a big old can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of excited that EFF is actually talking about it, and they're have updated the article a couple different times. So if you want to deep dive more into it, the link is in the show notes. I would highly encourage you to dig deeper.
Mm-hmm. One of the things during the leak was that person that leaked it said that the higher ups at Wizards of the Coast feel that the customers are getting in the way of the money.
Yeah.
I also saw someone describe it as ironic because Wizards of the Coast was founded on people really enjoying this and wanting to get it out there, and now it's run by corporations. Whereas My Little Pony started as trying to sell a toy, and then they got people that were really invested in it and wanted to make it actually good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Friendship is Magic came from, where they actually create something really good from something that was just a capitalist endeavor.
We'll see if they run it into the ground or just how many times we can fork it. Just like, I mean, with what Red Hat did with CentOS and the announcement of how many people spun off and how many are actually still running. So what, you've got Alma Linux and Rocky Linux still going strong at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, more competition the better, right?
Yep.
Cool deal. All right, let's go on to our last couple things that we've got for this week. And I think the next one is yours as well.
Yeah, I've got the next couple. Threw an extra one in there on you.
Sweet.
So while I was going through my feeds this week, found someone posted what they called the SOC multi-tool. It is an extension for Chromium-based browsers that adds a drop-down menu for things like a reputation check, information check, event ID, or error code lookup, as well as other. So you can do things like check an IP against virus total and abuse IP DB, look up IP info using Tor Relay Checker and Whois, look up hash reputation using virus total, domain reputation using virus total and abuse IPDB, domain info using Alien Vault, decode base 64 and hex using CyberChef, look up file extensions, look up MAC address manufacturers using maclookup.com, parse a user agent using useragent.net.
Oh, digital. Look up living off the land binaries with the LOL Bass project. Welcome back, digital.
All the fun. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You left off on look up domain information using Alien Vault.
Okay. Look up living off the land binaries using the lolbass project. Decode base 64 and hex strings using CyberChef. File extension info using fileinfo.com. MAC address manufacturer using maclookup.com. Parse user agent using useragent.net, and a couple others that could be fairly useful, like Microsoft error codes using Microsoft's DB.
Very nice.
So right now it's hosted on GitHub, where you download a zip and extract the folder to somewhere on your desktop, then put it into your Chromium through the load unpacked in your browser's extension settings. So you might want to double check the code once you download it, just to be safe.
Good call.
Of course, Chrome's falling out of favor. So someone else took the idea and ran with it, and then created One Stop Sock. This is a Python tool to do most of the same things.
Ooh.
So in this one, you run the Python script. It gives you a little GUI with an enter an IOA or an IOC, and then buttons for the different things such as virus total, abuse IPDB, alien vault, whois, Tor relay, URL scan, Mac lookup, user agent lookup, file.net, file info, vent ID, and decode base 64.
Nice. And they wrote it in Python 3.11. Yay!
As they should.
Right? Absolutely. Cool deal. And it looks like you snuck one other one here in, which is right. Hey, Digital, you okay there, bud?
Did it break again?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay.
That was some of the wildest stuff I've heard before.
Yeah, the internal mic on the Razer Blade, don't recommend.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I can say the same thing about the Framework laptop internal microphone. It's got the hardware cutoff, but it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho's, before all that happened, the projects for this week, what do you have for us?
So the DC 801 Black Mage badge round 2 ship.
Woo,
And
woo.
I believe both of us have received ours.
We have.
I'm playing around with it a bit, and I've got fairly far. Right now I'm trying to figure out how to turn someone into a ball. Don't know how to do that.
Okay.
I thought I got it because I turned into a ball thing. Like, the text on the boy changes, but then no one else recognizes that happened.
Oh.
I'm doing there.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, very cool. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. I got to play a lot of the digital version of, if you didn't get your hands on one of the physical badges, you could still play the entire thing online for free. So I ended up sitting down and working with, I think it was Admiral Potato, and his significant other sat me down, and we worked on it for like an hour and a half, because I had never worked with hex code before, period. So walking through it, they gave me some gentle reminders or pointers on how to get started, so I just got to sit there and play with it, and got quite a bit in there, learned something brand new. So I was excited to see this actually show up in the mail, and started playing with it a little bit last night as well.
Yeah, I just started pressing buttons.
I will say, playing with it on the computer versus having the physical thing in front of you is also two very different things. So while you know the interface or can get around, it's quite a bit of fun, man.
Hmm. I did have one thought.
What's
You
that?
mentioned about the online version playing music, which
Yes.
doesn't. I
Yeah.
wonder if you have to add the SD card.
So my understanding is that the SD card will allow you to go through and update the more chapters that are coming in the future,
Hmm.
and or be able to build your own. So I don't know how and where that works yet, and I've not jumped into the Discord to find out. So that is an interesting thought process because it does have a speaker on there. So
Hmm.
yeah, and then of course we got Silk's review of it last year that they've also linked on their site as well. So yeah, you can go through and click play chapter 1 on your web browser now, and if you click on it, it goes to dc801.github.io.bm-badge. Do. You can see the controls environment set up. Quite a bit of fun to be able to play around with it a bit. And I'm not hearing any music now either. Maybe there was just music playing in the background when, or maybe I'm crazy, man. That's just. I will say, okay. Did you go with a random name when you started? Or
I
did
did.
you... Okay, all right. So what did you do with the random name?
So it was Bub.
Yep. Okay. There's Cloud, Frisk. There's Tom Hanks, Spy, Tom Honks, Kremet, Steamed Hams, Buster, Farnsworth, Vivi, Terra, Chrono. It just keeps on going on and on. Um, since the Final Fantasy Crisis Core remake came out on PC, I've been playing that on my Steam Deck and having my boys play through it with me. So I, of course, went with Cloud, but pretty cool. Once you get it up and
Did
running, oh, go ahead.
did appreciate having Bub as my name, given one request I only had to change.
Oh, you only had to change probably one character for Bob versus Bub, which is funny. As part of this setup, you have to go through and try to fix these glitches that you see here. Hi, Digital. Are you...
Don't know what's well,
Oh no. I don't know what's up either, man. Welcome back, Digital.
I apparently just can't look away from Discord.
Okay, all right. So you need to get some of those Nreal glasses, so then you're always looking at your computer, right?
But no, like if I change focus, I was
Oh,
trying to switch between the podcast YouTube page to watch what you were doing. That's when.
oh, okay, gotcha. Point. Do you want to try to finish your thought process there? Oh no. Okay. All right then. I will say for our last wrapping thing, I was able to go through and kind of excited. I've been looking for our show, and with Fedora 37, I was able to just take the USB-C, plug it directly from the glasses right into my, like if you will, from uh, Daniel Suarez's books. So you have a heads-up display. I'm not playing with the 3D. Don't look horrible. You can also go through and so this is what it actually would look. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I've been pretty happy with it. I need to play with it on the Android. If you're going to try to do this with an iOS device, you do need to buy an adapter that's like $60. But the fact is that it just acts as a USB-C monitor. So it's pretty cool. Definitely looking forward to playing with it more. There's a couple other projects that then just having another screen in front of you. So kind of cool. Look forward to playing with it more and using it here in the future. With that, I think Digital is still having voice issues. So you can find us both on Twitter and on Mastodon or defcon.social. I'm putting the links to those places in our show notes. So with our second week in the bag, I hope everybody has a fantastic week, and we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat station. And with that, we'll see you later.